Imagine the most important examination in human history. There are no classrooms, no desks, no pencils, no calculators, no multiple choice questions, no grades, no certificates, and no second chances. The test begins the moment you wake up. Can you find food? Can you locate clean water? Can you recognize danger before danger recognizes you? Can you predict tomorrow's weather without satellites? Can you navigate a landscape with no maps? Can you survive for hundreds of thousands of years? This was the only intelligence test that mattered, and failure did not mean a disappointing score. Failure meant extinction. Every person alive today exists because an unbroken chain of ancestors passed this test, generation after generation, century after century, ice age after ice age, each one solving problems that modern humans rarely encounter, each one making decisions that determined whether their family line would continue, and every successful solution left traces behind, not in books, not in monuments, but inside the code of life itself, inside DNA. Today, intelligence is often reduced to a number, a score, a percentile, a measurement designed to capture the complexity of the human mind, and there is no doubt that such tests can reveal important things. People who perform well on certain cognitive assessments often succeed in many academic environments. Patterns exist, correlations exist, the science is real, yet hidden within our DNA lies a story that raises a profound question. What if modern intelligence tests are measuring only a fraction of what intelligence truly is? What if some of the most important cognitive abilities in human history never appear on an exam? What if the skills that allowed humanity to cross deserts, survive ice ages, navigate oceans, and conquer every continent cannot be fully captured by solving puzzles on a piece of paper? Tonight, we travel deep into the world of ancient DNA, and what we discover may completely change the way you think about intelligence itself. The story begins more than 100 years ago, a period of enormous change. Industrial societies were expanding rapidly, education systems were growing, governments faced a difficult challenge. For the first time in history, millions of children were entering formal schooling. Teachers needed ways to identify students who required additional support. Administrators needed methods for evaluating educational progress. Psychologists began searching for objective measurements of mental ability. The result would become one of the most influential ideas of the modern age, the intelligence test. What began as a practical educational tool would eventually transform how entire societies viewed human potential. Over time, intelligence testing became increasingly sophisticated. Researchers refined questions, expanded datasets, improved statistical methods. Certain patterns emerged repeatedly. People who scored highly often performed well in school. Many excelled in professions requiring complex reasoning. Predictions became more reliable. The numbers seemed to reveal something meaningful. And gradually, a powerful assumption began to take hold. If intelligence can be measured, perhaps intelligence can be reduced to a score. A single number, elegant, simple, easy to compare, easy to rank, easy to understand. Also, it seemed. The problem is not that intelligence tests measure nothing. The problem is that intelligence itself may be far larger than the slice being measured. Imagine evaluating the capabilities of an entire orchestra by listening only to the violin section. The violin matters. Its contribution is real, but it is not the whole orchestra. Likewise, many psychologists today recognize that intelligence is not a single monolithic trait. Human cognition consists of numerous interacting abilities: memory, creativity, social awareness, adaptability, spatial reasoning, emotional regulation, pattern recognition, strategic thinking, and many others. The human brain is less like a single instrument and more like a vast ecosystem, an intricate network of specialized systems working together, which raises an important question. If evolution created the human mind, what exactly was evolution optimizing for? The answer takes us far beyond classrooms, far beyond laboratories, and deep into humanity's forgotten past. To understand human intelligence, we must travel backward, not decades, not centuries, not even millennia, but hundreds of thousands of years, back to the environment that shaped the human brain, back to evolution's original classroom. Unlike modern classrooms, this one had no walls, no teachers, no textbooks, only consequences. Our ancestors evolved in a world filled with uncertainty. Predators stalked the landscape, weather shifted unexpectedly, food sources appeared and disappeared, migration routes changed, resources fluctuated with the seasons. Every day presented new challenges, and every challenge demanded solutions. Consider a typical day for a hunter-gatherer. Before sunrise, decisions must already be made. Which direction should the group travel? Where might water be found? Have animal herds moved since yesterday? Will weather conditions remain stable? Is the risk worth the reward? Each decision depends upon information gathered through observation, memory, experience, and prediction. The ability to think about the future may be one of humanity's greatest evolutionary advantages. Long before weather forecasts existed, humans learned to recognize subtle environmental clues. The shape of clouds, changes in animal behavior, shifts in wind patterns, the appearance of distant vegetation, tiny signals that could mean the difference between survival and disaster. Now imagine finding a series of footprints. To most modern observers, they appear random, meaningless impressions pressed into dirt. But to an expert tracker, they become a language, a story written across the landscape. The size of the tracks reveals the animal, the depth reveals weight, the spacing reveals speed, the direction reveals movement. Broken vegetation provides additional clues. Freshness indicates time. Suddenly, a handful of footprints becomes a detailed narrative, a sophisticated reconstruction of events. This is not magic. It is information processing, pattern recognition, probabilistic reasoning, attention to detail. In other words, it is intelligence. Yet few intelligence tests ask participants to reconstruct an invisible story from traces left behind in nature. Few measure ecological awareness. Few evaluate survival decision-making. Few assess real-world adaptability under uncertainty. And yet these abilities helped shape human evolution for hundreds of thousands of years. The challenges were not merely physical, they were social. Humans are among the most cooperative creatures on Earth. Survival often depended upon understanding other minds, who could be trusted, who possessed useful knowledge, who might become an ally, who might become a threat. Navigating complex social relationships required extraordinary cognitive skill. Our ancestors were not simply solving environmental problems, they were solving human problems, and in many ways, those may have been the most difficult challenges of all. The brain that evolved in this world was not designed for a standardized testing. It was designed for survival, adaptation, prediction, cooperation, and problem-solving under pressure. The question is not whether our ancestors were intelligent. The question is whether we have been measuring the full range of that intelligence all along. Modern minds often picture ancient humans as primitive, struggling, limited, less capable. But that image collapses the moment we examine what survival actually demanded, because survival was not simple, it was not passive, it was not random, it was a continuous, high-stakes problem-solving process where every decision carried consequences. Take something as simple as tool-making. A stone tool was not created by chance. It required planning, material selection, angle control, force calibration, and above all, experience passed through generations. A single mistake could waste hours of effort, or worse, cost a life during a hunt. What looks like a simple object today was once the result of deep cognitive sequencing, step after step, decision after decision. each dependent on memory, observation, and refinement. This was technology, not in the modern sense of machines and circuits, but in the purest sense, knowledge applied to survival problems. And it did not stop at tools. Consider navigation, long before maps, long before compasses, long before written language. Humans crossed vast oceans. They moved into territories with no known landmarks, no guaranteed return routes, no certainty of survival. And yet they succeeded. How? By reading the environment itself, currents, wind patterns, bird migration, wave behavior, star positions, subtle changes in color and motion across the water. Each detail became information. Each pattern became guidance, a cognitive map built entirely inside the mind. This was not luck. It was structured intelligence operating without external tools. Or consider survival in hostile ecosystems, rainforests, deserts, Arctic tundras. Each environment demanded a different kind of intelligence. In forests, knowing which plants heal and which plants kill. In deserts, understanding how to locate water hidden beneath the surface. In cold climates, learning how to preserve heat and food across long winters. None of this knowledge was written down. It lived in memory, observation, trial, error, and survival pressure. Only those who learned correctly passed their knowledge forward. But perhaps the most powerful intelligence was not individual. It was collective. Humans survived not just because they were smart alone, but because they shared intelligence. Cooperation created survival networks. Groups that shared knowledge survived longer than groups that did not. The answers we seek about who we are and where we came from may already be written inside us. If you enjoy this exploration into the hidden history of humanity, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a future discovery. The next breakthrough could change everything we think we know about our past. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next documentary.